Hi, I'm Jess.
Hi, I'm Kristen.
And welcome to ReDIScover, a space where we celebrate the childlike qualities that make up the essence of who we are while engaging with the world around us, both authentically and imaginatively.
Nothing is off the table here, and we talk a little bit...
or a lot.
About, well, everything.
Around here, we're always rediscovering, sharing empowering stories, and connecting our hearts and minds with every facet of life.
While we, of course, talk about the real stuff,
we invite you to be a part of the conversation as we broaden our perspectives, release limitations,
and grow to create our most joyful and fulfilling lives together.
So come along with us as we rediscover all the best parts of you
and bring a little bit of magic into your day.
Hi everyone, I'm Jess.
Hi, I'm Kristen.
And welcome back to this week's episode of ReDIScover. Happy April, everyone. We have two topics coming at you this month that are actually both going to be split up into 2 episodes each. So yes, you have weekly episodes to look forward to from ReDIScover in April. We haven't done that in a long time. All of the episodes this month are probably going to appeal to the majority of us because it's rooted in one of our favorite topics, Disney. But we're going to go out to the other coast and talk about the theme parks that we don't normally cover on ReDIScover. All of our episodes in the month of April are going to be focused on the Disneyland Resort.
Yes, we are taking it back to where it all began and going to the happiest place on earth together. You are welcome to come along with us. We thought April was a great month to do this series because if you've been hiding under a rock or you're not as big of a Disney fan as we are, you may not have realized that all of the fun nighttime entertainment that Disneyland is famous for is coming back this month after being closed since before the pandemic. So I know a lot of people are booking trips. I am seriously considering one because World of Color is coming back. They're bringing back the fireworks from the 60th anniversary, Disneyland Forever, and the Main Street Electrical Parade is getting a makeover and coming back to Disneyland as well. So everyone's excited about Disneyland news this month, and we're just excited to share some of our favorite things about Disneyland, kind of how it compares to Walt Disney World or the Walt Disney World that we know and love, maybe share some favorite memories and stories along the way, and just overall how Disneyland makes us feel, because it has a very unique feel that is different from Walt Disney World. And I'm sure Jess can attest to the fact that it's different from the other Disney parks around the world. So we're excited to get right into it.
So for this episode, we're going to kind of go through each land and do our own analysis of each one, give you our personal favorites, our top tips, all that jazz. So we hope you love it. And I've been looking forward to doing this episode since ReDIScover launched at the beginning. So We're finally here.
Where better to begin than on Main Street USA?
So Main Street USA, the initial beginning of your Disneyland journey. I think Main Street USA has a really special feel at Disneyland specifically because you really feel Walt's presence. Walt Disney's dream was to create a family-friendly theme park, and Disneyland was the manifestation of that. And he was actually only alive when Disneyland opened. He had passed away by the time Walt Disney World opened. So Walt's spirit really, I believe, lives at Disneyland, and you can really feel it infused into the details and the different things that they have around the parks. One noticeable thing about Disneyland versus Walt Disney World is that it does feel a bit smaller. The buildings feel a little bit smaller, but in a way that feels more cozy and more intimate, I think. You really feel like you're in this small town, and you can look over to your left, and above the fire station is Walt's apartment, where he actually was able to stay when he was at Disneyland. He had his family stay there or guests, and sometimes with certain tours or, magical moment experiences, you can go up and see Walt's apartment. It's not really open to the public necessarily. There's different, tours or ways you can get up there, but even if you can't get into the apartment itself, there is a light that they leave on in the window. And when Walt used to visit Disneyland when he was alive, they would leave the light on so everyone would know he was in the park. But since he has since passed on, they just leave the light on all the time. So his spirit will remain in Disneyland, which I think is so beautiful and gives me chills. And it just makes you feel like you're really at the original park, the dream come true.
Yeah, I totally agree. Everything does feel smaller, but I think intimate and cozy are two great ways to describe it. I always tell everyone who is going to Disneyland for the first time and they kind of ask me like what's different or what to expect. I always tell them that walking into Disneyland feels like getting a hug from an old friend. Like, you know, that friend that just gives the best hugs. It feels like that. And that's the only way I can really describe it. And it may be Walt's spirit. It may be the cast members who keep that spirit alive. It may be the smaller, scale atmosphere. It may be all of those things. It just feels so warm and inviting. And there's a sense of belonging there. There's a sense that you walk in and you're home, or somewhere that feels like home, somewhere that really is just happier and lighter, and everything from like the brick sidewalks to the beautiful trees that, just create like these dapples of sunlight in town square, and the flowers that are always blooming, and the steps up to the train station where sometimes you'll see Mickey and Minnie and their friends. It's just the little Main Street vehicles that ride around, the omnibus and the little fire engine, and such a beautiful way to begin a day at Disneyland. And there is never a time that I walk into town square at Disneyland that I don't just feel like, and I just like can't stop smiling.
Main Street is a really special area. Instead of, how Walt Disney World has Hall of Presidents, Walt Disneyland has great moments with Mr. Lincoln, which is actually located on Main Street USA, which I thought was a really interesting comparison the first time I went. But that's one of the more original attractions from the World's Fair. There is a character meal restaurant called the Plaza Inn, which is really, really fun on Main Street in Disneyland. And if it's the same as it was pre-pandemic, they had a very wide variety of characters at this character breakfast, everything from Chip and Dale to Tigger to Fairy Godmother to Rafiki. Like, it was kind of a conglomeration. And I think that's interesting because the plaza at Walt Disney World on Main Street is more so just a table service restaurant, a little bit more basic, a little bit smaller. Let's see. I mean, Main Street, of course, I think is like one of the best places to see the parade in the park, depending on what parade. Disneyland is really interesting because the crowd at Disneyland is a lot more locals than Walt Disney World. Walt Disney World is very tourist destination, very vacation, very, traveling from all over the world or all over the country. Whereas Disneyland, majority of their guests are from California. So the entertainment actually changes very frequently at Disneyland. So you may have multiple different types of parades or fireworks shows within the same year, whereas Walt Disney Worlds are pretty much all the same except for ticketed holiday events.
Something to note about Disneyland on the entertainment note is that because it is such a locals driven park, they really are able to, as you said, like do different things throughout the year. And there are a lot of surprise, spontaneous character sightings, whether that's on the steps of the train station, whether that's, Alice in the Mad Hatter running around by the Coca-Cola corner, while the pianist is playing, doing charades and playing games with the guests, or at the Plaza Inn, just the random abundance of characters that seem to show up there. It really is so magical because you never know what to expect. You never know who's going to show up. And so you're kind of always on the lookout for someone or something fun happening. But before we move into kind of the Castle Hub area, I think a couple of my favorite moments on Main Street USA are the Magic Shop, which is the original that has been there since opening day. And the cast members there do magic tricks for you. And just, are so engaging and entertaining. In particular, a cast member that I befriended years ago, his name is Henry. He was so, so sweet. And he is a phenomenal magician and just like was such a highlight of that trip that we met him. And I feel like Main Street has these little like alcoves and like little moments that don't exist at Walt Disney World because the scale of Main Street USA at Walt Disney World is so much grander. Like the Carnation Cafe, which again has been there since forever. And I don't know if Chef Oscar is still there, but when he was there, he was the chef at Carnation Cafe who had been there since before opening day. And I had the pleasure of meeting him. I'm sure, Jess, you did at some point too.
I did. He was so cute.
He's such an angel, so sweet. But just that little patio seating area where you can sit outside and have a meal on Main Street USA. And that's just such a unique experience. And just like the little front porch area outside of the Silhouette shop with the rocking chairs that I always see like the elderly guests at Disneyland just sitting on the porch in their rocking chairs. And I'm like, this feels like a neighborhood. It's so charming. And oh gosh. Okay. I was going to say last but not least, there are a couple of things. The little red wagon that sells the hand-dipped corn dogs. Now, maybe we don't have Casey's Corner, and I know everyone's obsessed with the corn dog nuggets here at Walt Disney World, but I would argue that far superior to those, like light years ahead in every possible way, are the corn dogs from this little red wagon. I always want to get one. They smell so good. The line is always long, and it's for good reason. And then across the way is the Jolly Holiday Bakery, which of course I love because I love anything to do with Mary Poppins. I love how much Mary Poppins gets representation at Disneyland. I heard someone say at one point that like Walt didn't want there to be a parade at Disneyland that didn't include Mary Poppins. And I don't think they ever have had a parade that didn't include Mary Poppins. And I love that. So I love going to the Jolly Holiday Bakery because there's like stained glass windows with the penguins, and it's all just very like open and light and airy and Victorian. And you can get little like sweet treats and grilled cheese and tomato soup, which is a combo Jess and I love.
I was going to say, I have to plug the grilled cheese and tomato soup. It is every single time I go to Disneyland, it is like my must-do food. And one time I even paired it. I got it during the electrical parade and watched the parade go by. And it was just like the warmest, comfiest experience watching the parade and eating your grilled cheese and tomato soup. It is so good. So if you're going to Disneyland, get that grilled cheese. It's worth it.
What a like childlike, just youthful, joyous experience. I love that.
So much joy. So much.
Comfort food, comfort parade, so much nostalgia, and like great bang for your buck too. Yeah. I love that place so much. The other thing I can think of that is a seasonal treat, but at Halloween time, they had this like pumpkin cheesecake, which sounds very basic, but I'm not like a big sweets person as an adult at all, but I still think about that pumpkin cheesecake, and it's been like 3 years since I've had it. So if you're there at Halloween time, that's a great one too. But I think as you move into kind of like the hub area, this is where a lot of people tend to get a little critical of Disneyland, especially if they've been to Walt Disney World or Disneyland Paris or somewhere where, or Shanghai, where the castles are these huge, grandiose, like magnificent structures. Sleeping Beauty Castle is quaint and kind of small, but I think the hub area at Disneyland is, again, like a continuation of that warm, cozy, just inviting feeling of Town Square. And like at springtime, all the cherry trees surrounding the partner statue in front of the hub are blooming with these beautiful pink cherry blossoms. And again, the sidewalks are all inlaid with brick, which just like gives this upscale feel to the whole area. It feels like a park with the benches and like the little courtyard, the little statues all around. And it's just a beautiful place to linger, and it doesn't feel as congested as the hub area at Walt Disney World. There's never as many people, and the castle's just so like accessible, I guess. Like you can walk through the castle all of the time, and the little pathways on either side that lead to like the wishing well where you can hear Snow White singing, and there's that grotto with the waterfalls and the reflections in the moat and the drawbridge, and it all just feels like you can get closer to it, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say it feels more approachable than the other castles because the other castles at the other parks, which are amazing, and I love all of them in their own way, but at Disneyland, it doesn't feel so daunting, and it feels like you're in the storybook with it. And it feels like when you go onto these side paths, like your character in the storybook. Oh, and in the springtime, when the cherry blossoms bloom, it is pink and beautiful and adds a whole nother layer because it matches the castle.
Even when the leaves turn green and it's summertime, it's just like, well, Disney World needs more trees. They got rid of all the trees. I know, to put in fake grass. That was heartbreaking. I know that they needed more space for sure, but that's something I really look forward to when I go to Disneyland, is seeing all of the trees that are still there. And I know that was such a thing for Walt too. There's like a recording of him talking about Disneyland, and he's talking about how like it will never be finished. And he says like the thing will get more beautiful every year. Even the trees will keep growing. And I just love that they left the trees and let them grow. I think we should head to our first land. And I think that as a former skipper at the world famous and original Jungle Cruise, Jess has to take us on a tour of Adventureland.
I am really looking forward to this. So Skipper Jess is putting her khaki hat back on after many years. If you guys are new around here or haven't been following along for super long, which is totally understandable because this is years ago, but I did a Disney college program at Disneyland in 2014 and was a Jungle Cruise skipper, which was my dream job. In the spirit of 2014 Skipper Jess, I am thrilled to take you on a little tour of Adventureland. Adventureland at Disneyland is probably my favorite land in any of the parks, in any of the Disney parks around the world. And I've been to all of them at this point. And it's because of a nostalgic factor and the passion I have for the Jungle Cruise and I just love the theming of it. It's so lush and green and adventurous, and it just makes you feel like you're on an exploration or on a journey. And before you go under the beautiful archway sign that says Adventureland, on your left-hand side, you're going to see two very important stops. Number one, the Enchanted Tiki Room. Now, as a Jungle Cruise skipper, I also got to work a few shifts here, and I absolutely love it. It is the original location for the Tiki Room. And what was really interesting about this attraction that I learned there is that it was supposed to be a dinner show in Walt's original concept. But since you're sitting underneath birds and you're eating food, and, you know, sometimes birds just like have no concept of where they are, they thought, let's not have a dinner show. Let's just have it be an animatronic show, which
that sounds like my nightmare.
I know,
honestly.
Right? It's pretty funny, but I love the feeling of that building, and most specifically the lanai, which is the area where you wait to go into the Enchanted Tiki Room show. They have all of the tiki gods like Pele, the fire god, or whoever, and it's kind of on a loop. So the tiki juice bar is connected to the lanai at the Enchanted Tiki Room. And you can buy a Dole Whip on either side. So you can go inside the lanai and get a Dole Whip there, or you can wait on the outside. And I found back in the day, I don't know if it's still like this because I think it's just busy all the time now, but sometimes if you went in the lanai, the line was actually shorter for Dole Whips because everyone thought you could only get it outside. So that was interesting. And you can actually bring your Dole Whips into the Enchanted Tiki Room. Last I checked, pre-pandemic, but that's kind of fun to be able to watch the show and have your Dole Whip with you. After you see the birds sing words and the flowers bloom, you're going to head on in to Adventureland under that beautiful archway, and you will be coming up on my old home, the Jungle Cruise. It's a must-do, guys. It is the original Jungle Cruise. It's one of Disneyland's opening day attractions. Walt Disney conceptualized the Jungle Cruise himself. He wanted an attraction with, you know, live animals, like a safari type attraction, which we did get at Kilimanjaro safaris many years later. But back in 1955, it was more realistic to have animatronic animals and then a skipper guiding you through the attraction itself. And originally, we didn't really know skippers were going to be so humorous, but as the years went on, the wit and the humor just sharpened. And now your skipper is really what makes the attraction. If you have someone who's really into it, who can tell really great jokes like that, that's a good Jungle Cruise. So I think differences between Walt Disney World and Disneyland's Jungle Cruise, they don't have that huge cave scene. It's all outdoors. The scenes are actually in a different order, which I found really interesting when I went to work there. I felt thrown off, and then I got totally used to it. The python that has a crush on you is actually at the very end of the attraction at Disneyland, whereas in Walt Disney World, it's in the beginning. There's no plane crashed scene on the side where it's plain to see. You took a crash course. Yeah, that's a Walt Disney World thing. And at Disneyland, they actually have piranhas at the end. Your skipper's chatting, and then suddenly the piranhas jump up and kind of start, chomping and
motivate you to get out of the boat.
Get out of the boat. So yeah, I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
But it was my dream to work the original Jungle Cruise. And like, I would have, if it didn't work out at Disneyland, I thought maybe I'll go back to Disney World and work it, whatever. I just wanted to be a skipper at some point in my life. But I cannot express how grateful I was that I was at that one specifically, because it just, I don't know, the skippers had a certain level of pride as well, because they knew they were working that original day attraction. It was just really, it was so special. So I could talk about that all day. That could be an episode in itself. Next door to the Jungle Cruise actually is another really fun attraction.
Love this one.
I love this one. And it is called the Indiana Jones Adventure, Temple of the Forbidden Eye. For Disney World fans out there, if you know Dinosaur in Animal Kingdom, it is the same ride vehicle and style as Dinosaur. However, I think Indiana Jones is a bit better.
I agree.
Kristen, if you want to chime in on this one, I know I've been talking for a long time.
No, it's so good. It's so good. I mean, who better to take us through Adventureland than a Jungle Cruise skipper?
I mean, I would can keep going.
If we went back in time, I would want a VIP tour guide, Jess, but in your Jungle Cruise skipper costume through Disneyland. And then we would end our tour with you being my skipper on the Jungle Cruise. Like, that is my dream. So one day when we invent time travel, we will do that, because I just feel like that would be like prime Jess.
Yeah, those were my golden ages.
Yeah, that would be just so gratifying to witness. I actually am feeling like I'm gonna cry a little bit.
Oh,
that's so weird. Just thinking about, I'm actually crying. Thinking about you getting to do that, and just your Disney history loving heart that I know, it just makes me really proud. Anyway, I don't know why I'm crying.
We love crying in Adventureland. I did that many a time.
Just love Disneyland so much. It just makes my heart so happy. Anyway, I also feel like the cozy, intimate feel continues in Adventureland that you really just feel throughout the park. It's definitely smaller than Adventureland at Walt Disney World. The walkways are more narrow. I feel like there's more plant life, almost encroaching on the walkway, which is great because it makes it feel like a jungle. There's just plants and trees, and you sort of have to walk around them. And there were horticulture specialists who knew all of the different plants in Adventureland too. They're all living and breathing plants, and I thought that was fascinating. That's so cool.
I don't have any facts for you.
Other than she can point out her favorite plants in the jungle.
That one, and that one.
Just those ones over there. But I love that it just feels like this lush, tropical kind of paradise that you find. And I love the whole bring your Dole Whip into the lanai. I like that they give you a little umbrella in your Dole Whip at Disneyland. That's such a simple thing, but I think it's just so charming. And I love the Jungle Cruise. I love the Indiana Jones ride. I totally agree that it's more fun than Dinosaur. I don't know if it's the theming because I really love just like dinosaurs. I think they're so cool, but I don't know. It's just something about it just feels more like epic. I don't know if it's the music or just the story. I don't know.
The theming is good.
It's
really good. To piggyback off of the Adventureland like ambiance, it really takes you on that epic adventure that you're probably craving by the time you get to that ride.
Yeah, that's true. There was like some build up to like something really epic that should happen. And you sort of get like the whimsy and like the original Walt, with the Enchanted Tiki Room. And then you get some funny hilarity with the Jungle Cruise. So this is really like the attraction in Adventureland that like tells you this big epic story. And I think when you're in the queue and you're going into the temple and you totally lose your cell phone service and all of that, like it's sort of like preparing you and you have this anticipation. And I think it's so fun. And the other thing to note, it's such a like little thing before we get into my favorite land at Disneyland, is the Bengal barbecue across the Jungle Cruise is such a great like snack / light meal option. Great bang for your buck. It is delicious. They basically have different skewers, like there's a chicken one. I think there's a beef one, a vegetable skewer. I think Disneyland overall just has far superior casual dining options than Walt Disney World, especially if you're comparing Magic Kingdom and Disneyland Park. Mm-hmm. This is a great one. And you can kind of like smell it from far away. And it's just so good. So I think like a skewer from Bengal barbecue, a Dole Whip, it's a great meal.
Yeah. I mean, I just need to throw this in there too. They redid the area right next to the Jungle Cruise. Like the area that used to be the Aladdin Cave of Wonders thing. They transformed it into an area now called Tropical Hideaway. And it is a really, really good place. If you just want to sit down, they have like bao buns and Dole Whips of multiple flavors. And Rosita from the Tiki Room, one of the birds, is chilling out there because, they ask whatever happened to Rosita. Well, she's at the Tropical Hideaway.
Perfect.
And it kind of lines the Jungle Cruise. So you can see the boats going by as you're snacking on your treats. So I love that area. That is newer as of only a few years ago. So that's why it's not ingrained in my brain. But I recommend that if you need like a place to chill out, Tropical Hideaway. I think that wraps up most of Adventureland. I mean, what an adventure we just went on.
Can we go to New Orleans Square next? Because it is my whole entire heart. I just abhor the fact that Magic Kingdom has Liberty Square, but Disneyland gets this absolutely celestial, Mardi Gras clad, gorgeous New Orleans French Quarter, but even more magical. I love that it's right along the rivers of America. I love all of the live music that happens there all of the time. There is always a band, whether it's the jazz band playing on the stage at the quick service restaurant or the musicians, like the pirate musicians from Pirates of the Caribbean. I just love that there's always this like boisterous sound and it's just jazzy and fun and swinging and like live. And at night, the lights are so beautiful and it's just always decorated for Mardi Gras. And I just love the little alcoves and like the little, like you turn a corner and there's like another little shop or a little alcove or like a little balcony and there's flowers everywhere. And Pirates of the Caribbean is far superior to the one we have here at Walt Disney World. The Blue Bayou, which for those of you who don't know, is a restaurant that is literally situated inside the Pirates of the Caribbean attraction, much like the restaurant San Angel Inn, which is inside the pyramid in the Mexico Pavilion at Epcot here at Walt Disney World. And it's just cozy and you can hear, this is such a weird thing, but one of my favorite Disneyland sounds is when you're first on the ride and you're going through that bayou section and you hear the crickets and the frogs, you're just like that little banjo pick, just like that slow banjo pick of the guy sitting on the front porch. And I just love it. I'm like, oh, I'm here. Like I hear that sound and I'm like, oh, I'm so excited. I just love Square.
Blue Bayou is great too. If you can request a waterside table
Mm-hmm.
right next to water, that is like the prime seat. And it is a pricey restaurant, but it's so worth doing at least once in your life. Like you just gotta do it sometime.
Yeah, I think, well, I'd say a waterside table is absolutely worth the wait. Like, even if you have a reservation and you say, like, we're willing to wait for a waterside table, worth the wait for sure. Like, if you're going to do it up. But also, they serve lunch as well as dinner, and lunch is more reasonably priced.
Yes,
so I think if you want to go and you're not able to really splurge, lunch is definitely more reasonably priced. And you absolutely need to try the gumbo. It is so good.
Yes. Yeah. Speaking of food, I think notable foods in New Orleans Square overall are gumbo. Number one, Disneyland gumbo is good. Number two, mint juleps are a really popular drink. They don't have alcohol in them. As far as I know.
No, they definitely don't.
Yeah. They don't have alcohol in them, but they're like a fun mocktail.
Yeah.
And then third are Mickey beignets. They have beignets that are shaped like Mickey Mouse that are adorable.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you get Mickey beignets and mint julep and go listen to that music Kristen was talking about, that is a lovely afternoon.
Yeah. And they change the Mickey beignets seasonally. So like at Halloween time, they'll do like a pumpkin spice flavor. Christmas, they do something different. They change the flavor and like the sauces they come with sometimes. Depending on the season. And over at the Mint Julep Bar, it's connected to the French Market restaurant, which is the bigger quick service in New Orleans Square. So you can grab a table over there, listen to the band play, maybe go inside the French Market and get some jambalaya because
that too.
Good jambalaya.
Yeah, like you said, Pirates of the Caribbean is superior at Disneyland. This is, you know, we came into this episode, we're like, we don't want to make a lot of like comparisons, but no, Pirates of the Caribbean is hands down better at Disneyland.
It just is.
It's longer. It has these really extravagant rooms. And then on the same scope of attractions as well, Haunted Mansion is in New Orleans Square. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but in every Disney park, Haunted Mansion is actually situated in a different land, which I think is really interesting. So this one's in New Orleans Square and it fits the New Orleans theme.
It's this gorgeous mansion with these like huge Gothic columns and these wrought iron balconies. And I know we've talked about this when we were talking about holidays at the Disney parks, but Haunted Mansion Holiday, I like it better than normal Haunted Mansion. And I am not one of those Nightmare Before Christmas fanatics. However, Haunted Mansion Holiday is spectacular, but even the original, just the standard version, is also phenomenal. But I feel like because Haunted Mansion Holiday runs from September through Christmas season, there's a good chance that you'll see it because that's like 4 months of the year that it's got the holiday overlay. So
I wanted to mention as well, in the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland, there is an animatronic that we don't have at Walt Disney World called the Hatbox Ghost. And he was one of these original concept ghosts that they did not have the technology to create at the time when Haunted Mansion originally came out. But for the 60th anniversary, they added him into the attraction at the top of the portion of the ride before you turn backwards and fall and down into the graveyard. His effect is really cool. So it's definitely worth taking note of the Hatbox Ghost for sure.
Yeah, keep an eye out for him. Overall, just New Orleans Square to me is like the most immersive land. I also think just for the space that it takes up, there is so much. I mean, there are two extremely popular like e-ticket attractions. There is the railroad station. There are, live musicians. It's right along the rivers of America. And there are technically 5 restaurants. There's the Blue Bayou, the Mint Julep Bar, the quick service restaurant, the Royal Street Veranda, which is a smaller quick service style restaurant that serves delicious gumbo and other soups in sourdough bread bowls. Very worth to, especially on a chillier day. When I was there in December, I think I ate there like 3 times. And Cafe Orleans, which is kind of like another sit-down restaurant, a little more casual style, not as pricey as Blue Bayou, but it's situated again, like you sit outside right along the water. The views are amazing. And those pommes frites, Chef's kiss.
Oh, they're so good.
I hear phenomenal things about the Monte Cristo, but there are certain things my stomach will not tolerate, and a fried sandwich is one of them. So
yeah, it's a dense one, but it's
not for me. But it looks very good. Let's breeze through Critter Country on our way to Frontierland. And the reason I want to breeze through it really quickly is, we have to mention there are 2 attractions there. The Winnie the Pooh ride, and which is like, dark ride style. You sit in the little beehive. It's a beehive, right? At Disneyland. And you go through the little scenes. It's very cute. And then, of course, Splash Mountain is over in Critter Country. But because Splash Mountain is being rethemed to Princess and the Frog, I cannot wait for the Disneyland version because New Orleans Square is right there. And I just imagine that they're going to do something where they like let it flow from like the French Quarter area of New Orleans Square into like this backwoods bayou situation to get you to the place where you would, be where you would find an attraction like Splash Mountain. I cannot wait to see what they see with that specifically because of its connection to New Orleans.
Yeah. So Critter Country is definitely a smaller land, something we don't have at Walt Disney World at all. It does have those 2 attractions, so it is worth mentioning. Yeah. And it's still on the Rivers of America as well. So that is where we're going to leave you guys today. Come back in 1 week, not 2 this time, just 1 week on Tuesday for the second part of the ReDIScover audio tour of Disneyland. We wanted to break these episodes up into 2 parts because we wanted to savor the magic for as long as possible and also give you guys the treat of weekly ReDIScover episodes in April. We haven't done that in quite a long time. So again, come back next Tuesday for part 2 of our Disneyland audio guide, and we will talk to you then.
Bye! Thank you for joining us on today's episode of ReDIScover.
If you haven't already subscribed, hit that button and join the ReDIScover fam.
If you're like us and you have opinions about everything, leave us a review on Apple or Spotify. Your positivity inspires our creativity, and we love hearing from you.
Join us every other Tuesday for brand new episodes full of rediscovery.
And each month has its own unique theme, so be sure to catch them all.
Follow us on Instagram at positively.kristen and at jessicafay508.
And check out Jess's blog at theroadjesstraveled with 1l.com.
Until next time,
bye!